One. Yo, what is good, everybody? It's your boy Sports PSP. Hope everyone's enjoying a fantastic Friday evening. Welcome to another episode of the Sports PSP podcast. I'm here with the crew right now. Got my man BRF Sports in the building. How are you doing, brother?
Man, I gotta say, life is good, but today was a little wild. I had to, I would say I got about 2 hours of overtime today trying to finish up a big sale today. I got it done, but boy, I was ready to get home after this. So, but you know what? Hey, man, sometimes you gotta put the little extra in and get stuff done that you want to get done. But I can't complain. But life is good. I'm ready for this weekend. A lot of good football. I'm ready to talk about it. And it's always a pleasure to be on here with the fellas, man. Come on, man. This the we all as a whole, we all the Friday night delight. So I can't complain.
And of course, we can't start the Sports PSP podcast without my guy, Undisputed World Champ. Please go follow him on his podcast. Check him out on Saturday nights as well, and sometimes on Thursday nights. How you doing, brother?
I'm good, man. I had a great day today. I actually spoke at my company luncheon today. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I was the speaker at the company luncheon today, so that was good. I stood them up. They got a standing ovation. So I'm good, man. And look, before we get the show started, man, I would be remiss if we did not say happy birthday to three legends. Happy birthday to Aaliyah. Happy birthday to the greatest of all time, Muhammad Ali. And the man who paved the way so we can all be here, the great Dr. Martin Luther King. Happy birthday to each and every last one of y'all, man. It's MLK weekend. We can't forget about that.
Yes.
Facts.
Absolutely. Hope everyone is doing everything. Hope everyone is staying safe, and also hearts and prayers. We cannot forget those that have been affected in California with the wildfires. God bless those. Hope everyone they get back on their feet. Wish them nothing but the best. We are praying for you, and we are still thinking about you. And let's just start 2025. I know it's been a little rocky, but let's start off the new year right. But fellas, college football, the national championship game between Notre Dame versus Ohio State. Ohio State is an 8.5 point favorites to win this one. BRF, I'm gonna let you go first. Who do you have winning the national championship on Monday night?
Man, I've watching Notre Dame and Ohio State and pretty much their roads to get here. Um, as much as I would love to pick Notre Dame because I think, well, I'll just say this kind of small spoiler. We're gonna be talking about them on our show tomorrow night. I don't want to segue too much into it, but I'm picking Ohio State here to win this game because I feel like they are a more balanced team than Notre Dame. I feel like the I don't think Notre Dame is going to be able to do to Ohio State, which is what I think you have to do to Ohio State to like compete and ultimately beat them, which is make them a one-dimensional squad. I think to beat Ohio State, you have to make them a one-dimensional squad because yes, they do have Jeremiah Smith, they do have Emeka Ibuka, but that offense goes through Chevrion Henderson and Quinshawn Judkins. I mean, let's just keep it a buck. With Will Howard, that offense goes through their running game, and that running game sets up that ability to play action and just, being able to set up that big playability of Jeremiah Smith and Emeka Ibuka. I don't think Notre Dame is good enough at the cornerback position to really contend with that, which I still feel is their weakness, is their on the defense, is their corners and their secondary. So I think it's going to be a close game. I think for Notre Dame to win, they have to make Ohio State as one-dimensional as possible. They have to take the running game away from Ohio State and make Will Howard throw 40 to 50 times to beat them because I don't think Will Howard can win a game throwing the ball 50 times. But I just feel like Ohio State's going to try to open up the offense early and take some pressure off of Will Howard, kind of spread that Notre Dame defense out to where they have, that way they can't really focus on stopping the run. So I'm gonna go out on a limb. I'm gonna go out and I'm gonna say 24-17. I think it's still gonna be a close game, but I got the Ohio State University winning the national championship.
All right. Before I let Champ go, I want to give a quick shout out to my guy, Sports Guy Talking. Please go like and subscribe to his YouTube channel. He just released a recent one about Lamar Jackson, and we'll talk about that later on the show. But he has Ohio State winning it. Champ, I'm gonna let you go, man. Between Notre Dame and Ohio State, really a tough decision because of two head coaches. Marcus Freeman, he's now the first black coach to coach a national championship. Ryan Day has received a lot of criticism, because of him losing multiple consecutive times to Michigan. Could he win the big one? People felt like it's time for him to move on. Who do you have?
Ohio State.
Okay.
I have to go with Ohio State. They have the ultimate weapon in college football right now, Jeremiah Smith. If you go back and look at that game they played against Texas, Ohio State, they literally had a 3-man coverage on Jeremiah Smith. They had 3 men shadowing him darn near the whole game. That is Megatron level aura. And they're so focused on him, they can't even focus on Njigma. I mean, that's the type of aura that he has. And although he only had 4 yards, they were so focused on him, they didn't even, it was crazy how that happened. Like I said, it's Megatron-esque type of coverage. I got to give it to Ohio State because I think Ryan Day and that coaching staff wants it more. Like you said, PSP, they've been going through a heck of a lot of criticism within the college football community. People have been saying he deserves to be fired because he lost to Michigan. And I think that he and that team is trying to complete this revenge tour. The college football from the second that it opened up was the Ohio State revenge tour. And they've been coming out there beating teams and beating them bad. They came out there and beat 2 top SEC teams. Beat 2 of them. Beat Tennessee. Beat Texas.
And let's not forget what they did to Oregon in the Rose Bowl.
Yes, I was getting
their
that.
rematch.
They beat them like they stole something. That was ugly. That was uglier enough to make a freight train go down a dirt road in order to get to the country. That's how ugly that was.
Uglier than chitlins?
Uglier than that. But man, when you think about how dominant they have been over these teams, from Tennessee to Oregon to Texas, when you think about how dominant this revenge tour has been, and make no mistake, it has been a revenge tour ever since they entered the playoffs. It has been dominating. They haven't been coming out here to win. They've been coming out here to dominate. And like I said, when you beat 2 of the top SEC schools, then you beat the number 1 team in the country, you've proven a lot. You've proven that you can win big ones. Now it's time for you to go out there and win the big one, which I think Ohio State is, and Ryan Day is determined to do that. And wouldn't it just be poetic justice? Poetic justice. They won the first ever 4-team college football playoffs. And then they go out here and win the 12-team college football playoff.
Coincidence.
Coincidence? Hey, call it what you want. But the thing is, when you think about that team that they had up on the Urban Meyer, one of the greatest college football teams of all time. When you think about Zeke and some of those guys that came out of that draft class, and when you think about who's coming out of this one, especially that 2-back system, Jeremiah Smith, Njigma, just to name a few, guess what? This draft class that they're going to have eventually when they graduate or declare for the NFL draft is going to be similar to that one. One of the best teams we've ever seen. And guess what? This revenge tour will be complete. And I think it will add a lot of redemption to Ryan Day. Because guess what? You can go out here and lose to Michigan again. Guess what? I got that ring. So, and then not to mention, shout out to Broad Sports brought this to my attention. This will be the first time since the 40s that the Big Ten will have won back-to-back national championships.
Yes, because last year Michigan won it. Thank God for
Mhm.
my team. It's gonna be tough, man. Because again, we talk about the big moments that Ohio State has won. Let's not forget Notre Dame. They did beat an SEC team, yours, Georgia
Mhm.
Bulldogs, and it wasn't even close. They beat them down. Then they beat Penn State. Had to come back. They were down 7 points, scored 10 unanswered points just to win that game. It's gonna be tough. And Marcus Freeman, I think, didn't he play at Ohio State?
Yes, he did. Back
Yes, he
in
did.
So
yes,
he
he
may
did.
know a little something. He may know. So he definitely knows something about the heritage. He definitely knows something. He may know something that the rest of us don't know, which is why I believe he's going to execute a game plan. All you have to do in this one, you're going to have to shut down the offense. But that's going to be an awful lot to ask, especially with Henderson, especially with Smith. And how is Notre Dame's offense going to compete against Ohio State's defense? Because let's not forget what Ohio State's defense is. They're one of the best in the nation. So I think it's going to be an awful lot, but I got Ohio State in this one 24-20.
Not
It's going
bad.
to be close. It's going to be a close game. Riley Leonard may make a mistake. Now, he won't make the same amount of mistakes that Quinn Ewers made because Quinn Ewers, remember that fumble that big man had to run it all the way for the end zone? I don't see that type of mistake, but I do see Riley Leonard throwing at least a pick or a costly fumble. I could see that. And the best thing for Ohio State's defense, they're going to have to ask Riley Leonard to beat them. Throw the football at least 35, 40 times. Just like you said, BR, like with Will Howard throwing the ball 40, 50 times, that's what Ohio State's defense is going to have to do to Riley Leonard. Keep him away from using his legs. Keep him away from using his legs and ask an awful lot from their defense. But I got Ohio State win this one 24-20. All right, fellas, let's move on to the NFL. Last weekend's playoff games. Chargers and Texans. I already said what I said about the game. I already told you how I felt about Justin Herbert. No, I think he had a horrible performance. He's still one of the best young quarterbacks in the NFL. But boy, he had a horrible game against the Houston Texans. In that game, he completed less than 50% of his passes through 4 interceptions, becoming the first Chargers quarterback since Stan Humphries back in 1995 to throw 4 interceptions. Yep, 30 years. Chargers, they were the favorites to win that one. They were like a 3-point favorite to win. They had the number 1 defense in the NFL, Jim Harbaugh's first year. Okay, Justin Herbert, you no longer have the excuses of Brandon Staley anymore because that's what you had your first time in the playoffs. And the Chargers, it was horrible. CJ Stroud, compared to Justin Herbert, I thought he played okay. He wasn't great or spectacular himself, but I thought he did enough to make some plays with his legs. I thought the game-changing moment was the fumble in which he threw it to Xavier Hutchinson, rolling to his right. That's what gave the the Texans some momentum in that game. And then Chargers, they had opportunities to score points. CJ Stroud threw a pick. There was the Joe Mixon fumble. There was a lot of opportunities. John Mechie, the first play of the game with the fumble. There were many opportunities for the Chargers to come back in that game. And Justin Herbert, I don't know. Look, I still think he is a top 5 quarterback in the NFL. But boy, he's going to have to deal with a lot of critics this offseason until he gets back to the playoffs and plays spectacular and wins a playoff game. Champ, I'm going to let you go first. What were your thoughts about the game? And do you think with this loss, is Justin Herbert, dare I say, overrated?
No, I will have to say this. Number one, it was a bad game. It was a bad game. That Houston Texas defense came alive. It came alive. And, they had a hell of a lot of opportunities in order to, change the outcome of that game. But I will say this. when it comes to guys like him, and I don't know if we're going to get into this later, Jordan Love, you got to have grace on some of these young quarterbacks. This was only his second playoff game. And I hate to regurgitate similar information, but we didn't start judging Peyton Manning on bad playoff games until he had that 41-0 loss against the New York Jets in his third playoff loss. And that was after he had a coaching change with Tony Dungy. You know, they got Jim Moore, that hard-nosed coach, out of there, and they bought in Tony Dungy, which was more of a softer touch. And after that, the criticism was, okay, he still can't get it done. Now, you know, the stigma is on Tony Dungy as well. So we got to have grace on these young quarterbacks to a certain extent. Like I said, people talk about, well, if Lamar was, you know, had lost a game like that, I agree to a certain extent. But Justin Herbert doesn't have the credentials that a Lamar Jackson has. He doesn't. Nor has he had the coach that Lamar Jackson has had. This is his first year under Jim Harbaugh. This is his first year with a good defense. This is his first year with decent coaching. This is his first year. You know, and I've been on record, even on your show, PSP, on saying how the Los Angeles Chargers have failed quarterbacks. Whether it be defense in Dan Fouts' case, whether it be, you know, whether it be proper coaching in Phillip Rivers' case after Marty Schottenheimer, and in Drew Brees' case, whether it be keeping them there, period, after you built up all of that chemistry with that team. So for Justin Herbert, yes, he has to play better. It's only his second playoff game. Only his second. And the thing is, give him grace, because guess what? He doesn't have the credentials that a Lamar Jackson has. He doesn't have the cachet that a Josh Allen has. He doesn't have their track records as of yet. If it was a repeat offense, then yeah, it's fair to say, hey, you're a playoff choker. Hey, you're overrated. But it's only his second playoff game. This is the first time he's ever in his career had legitimate, not one of these run-of-the-mill coaches. I'm talking about legitimate coaches. But I will say this, the road for him is not going to get any easier, because not only do you got a fat contract, you are in the hardest division, arguably in the AFC, outside of the AFC North. You have Patrick Mahomes in that division. Now you have another rookie on the rise with a Super Bowl winning coach in Sean Payton. So that road ain't gonna get easier for you. And when you're paid that type of money, to your point, PSP, when you get $250 million, $260 million as a quarterback, you're expected to be a problem solver. But like I said, only your second playoff game. Guess what? He's one of the most talented players in the NFL at this point. But we got to have grace on these young quarterbacks. We are only playing in your second playoff game. This is only your second playoff game. Now, you get to that third one and you get another lackluster performance like this, oh, it's on. Because now the criticism is going to be, hey, why haven't you gotten any better? We've seen these flashes and these big gaudy stats from up under Brandon Staley. Why are you not doing this up under Jim Harbaugh, who's more than a capable coach, who had a revolving door at the quarterback position when he was at San Francisco? Because remember, when he first got there, Alex Smith was there. Then he made Colin Kaepernick the starting quarterback after the injury to Alex Smith.
Right.
So that caused a quarterback controversy. And it was kind of a revolving door a little bit until they pretty much set it on Colin Kaepernick. So after next year, this is the year, okay, this is your mulligan. First time up on a good head coach, first time up on having a good defense, first time facing a formidable team like a Houston. You're up under the lights for only the second time in your career. Cool. It's only your second time. But next year, if we don't see you get better in the regular season, deservedly so, there needs to be some questions answered. If we see you get back to the season, you have another multi-turnover game, It's a question that needs to be answered. And one thing I will say this: people talk about, oh, quarterbacks are doing more with less. Okay, when they win, okay, I give you that. But let's stop when they lose. Use that excuse. Because, like I said, you're paid to be a problem solver, are you not? So let's stop when they win with less. Oh, we're singing their praises. But when they lose, well, he ain't got nothing. No, you just said a couple of games ago he ain't have nothing, so he's great. But in the case of Justin Herbert, give him some grace. First year with Ladd McConkey, first year with a lot of things around you. Let me give you some grace this year. Next year, though, you make the playoffs and you lay an egg, or in that division, you don't make the playoffs at all, and you let Bo Nix catch you, oh, it's on.
BRF.
I'm not ready to label him a playoff choker yet, but I will say this though: that second half against Jacksonville a couple of years ago, and then followed up with this performance against the Houston Texans, it ain't a good look. And I get with the first game he had Brandon Staley as a head coach. That's self-explanatory. We know he wasn't a good coach. And Jim Harbaugh is a huge upgrade and step up from Brandon Staley. I get that. But at the same time, though, it's like I've said it before, Justin Herbert. When you're in rarefied air, when people are talking about you as a top 5 quarterback in this league, you have to perform. You got to perform. Like, as a top 5 quarterback, you're in a space where you can't have the whole, well, he doesn't have anything. He doesn't have the weapons like other quarterbacks have. You can't necessarily use that as an excuse as much when you're looked at as a top 5 quarterback, because like Champ said, you're looked at as a problem solver. You're looked at to be able to overcome what what you might not have in terms of weaponry. But I mean, it's not like he has horrible weapons. I mean, he has Ladd McConkey. He has J.K. Dobbins. I mean, granted, Quentin Johnson is about as Jekyll and Hyde as you can get as a wide receiver, but his ceiling is through the roof when he's on his game as a wide receiver. But I'm not gonna go in on him just yet, even though that performance was just trash. I'm not gonna go in on him yet, but as like I said earlier, with with that choke against that god awful choke against Jacksonville, and in this game right here, you really have nothing to really build off of. So he's coming in the next year. I hope he has a chip on his shoulder. I hope he comes in ready to prove that, hey, I can tote this team to where I needed to go. I can take this team to where I wanted to go, which is to the playoffs and winning playoff games and contending for conference championships and Super Bowl titles. I mean, I want him to get there, but I just feel like we have to kind of hold you to a certain standard, because you're looked at as the best outside of the Mount Rushmore of this kind of era of quarterbacks right now playing, because Pat Mahomes, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow, they're kind of being looked at right now as the current day Mount Rushmore in terms of being the best 4 quarterbacks in the league. And it's kind of almost a consensus that we look at Justin Herbert as the best outside of that 4. So you do still, to a certain extent, need to be a problem solver and understand that when you're looked at like that and you're getting the money that Justin Herbert is getting, you got to show up. You got to be that guy that's above everything. You got to be that guy to lead your team to the promised land when everybody's not necessarily, when we know you don't have the weaponry like others, but you are. If you're looked at as great, sometimes you have to overcome that. I mean, we said that about Lamar Jackson all these years. It's like, man, he don't have the wide receivers like a lot of other guys, and da da da. He ain't have this. He didn't have this. But homeboy was still going out there. He was winning. Good Lord. I mean, he was winning an MVP with Willie Snead as one of his top 3 wide receivers. I mean, what did that say about him? I mean, it's one of those things where he's He's gonna, even if they don't go out and get anybody and they come back with this roster going into next year, he's got to be that guy that steps up and leads them through anything. Justin Herbert has to be that guy. So even though I'm not ready to call him overrated or label him a choker yet, I will say that you got to step up the next time you go to the playoffs. You got to do something. I mean, we're not gonna keep giving you all these excuses. We're not gonna keep doing that because we know you're still a young guy. We know this is your first year with a new head coach, and you lucked out and got Jim Harbaugh. You got one of the premier coaches in all of football. You lucked out and got Jim Harbaugh, but we're not gonna keep giving you these passes. We're not gonna keep giving you these passes to an extent you shouldn't want them. If you're looked at as a top 5 quarterback, you should be ready for what's gonna come when you're not playing that great. Because you're gonna want all the praises and you're gonna want all the good grades when you come out and you ball. Get ready to expect the heat when you come out and you have a game like you did against Houston. So I'm not ready to label him a choker. I will call him at this point right now a playoff underachiever because he ain't done it yet. But he's got to really he's got to step up next time he's in the playoff. He's got to because like Champ said, he comes out and he has another horrible performance. The grace period is over at that point. If he has another bad playoff game, the grace period is over. So he's got to find it within himself. Next time he's in the playoffs, he's got to show up and he's got to show out. He's not going to always continue to get these good graces like this. He's got to show up. He's got one more time. He gets this one, but this it. The next time he's in the playoffs, he's got to show up.
I think had he played well in that game and if the Chargers lost, not to excuse him, not to give him a pass, but I don't think we would be talking about him the way we are right now. It's not the fact that they lost, it's how he looked while they lost, which was bad. And you would expect more. Look, Champ, I understand this is his second playoff game, but you would like to think that Justin Herbert in year 5 in his career, he would play a lot better than what you saw on Saturday afternoon. Had they lost because of the Texans defense, and by the way, let's give a lot of credit to the Houston Texans defense. Number 6 ranked defense in the NFL. Champ, we talked about with Danielle Hunter, with Will Anderson Jr., the duo of those two, how they were able to get after the quarterback. And you look at just D'Amico Ryans and what he brings to the Houston culture. Hey, man, even though Kansas City, and we'll talk about this later on the show, Kansas City's going to have a hard time going up against that defense because Houston, they got some pass rushers. And Derek Stingley, what he did to Justin Herbert that Saturday afternoon, my God. But the Chargers, man, they're going to have to make some moves. And you talked about it, BRF. You talked about possibly with Tyreek Hill on Champ's Pod coming to the Chargers. They need to get rid of Quinn Johnston. I'm sorry, but I mean, you would have thought after drafting him in the first round out of TCU, you would have thought he would have had some promise. But dude hasn't been playing well at all. Ladd McConkey, though, big game from him. 9 catches, a $197, a TD, 86 yard. Ironically, that touchdown came after 2 sacks in which the Chargers gave up. But I think for Justin Herbert, look, he's only 26 years old, but at the same time, you're dealing with not only Kansas City, you're dealing with Denver. You're dealing with the rest of the AFC, not just to mention Josh Allen, not just to mention Lamar Jackson and Joe Burrow. Even though the Bengals are out of the playoffs, we can't disregard what Joe Burrow can do.
No.
But speaking about Lamar, Steelers-Ravens game, we predicted that the Ravens would take care of the business against the Steelers. I want to talk about Mike Tomlin. Now, Mike Tomlin, right now, is like the longest 10-year head coach. He's been there since 2007. Okay? We know his record throughout his career as a head coach. He's 183 and 107 and 2 in the regular season. However, he's 8-11 in the playoffs. Do I think the Pittsburgh Steelers should fire Mike Tomlin? No, not this moment. Because if you fire him, who you going to find in return? But the problem is with Mike Tomlin, he's allowed a lot of bad behavior. You see the bad behavior with George Pickens, and you've seen it before with Santonio Holmes, Antonio Brown, Juju Smith-Schuster, Claypool. So with Mike Tomlin, it's obvious it's a pattern. And yes, he is a player's coach. We give him a lot of credit. He's never had a losing record under his watch. And you look at what he's done. I mean, not too often, too many black coaches can do or any coaches can do what Mike Tomlin is doing. But at the same time, getting to the playoffs isn't enough. And I was checking out Brendan from the Block's podcast. Shout out to our guy, Brendan from the Block. Our guy, Kieran, voiced his frustrations, and rightfully so, because he is a diehard Steelers fan, although he lives in Jersey like myself. But there has to be some serious changes. Now, look, we all know Arthur Smith. Look, champ. Not to disrespect you. Hell, that's like picking your diet when it comes to Arthur Smith's play calling.
Yeah, McDonald's and donuts all day.
But my thing is with the Steelers, man, they are a first-class organization. They are loyal. The Rooney family, they've held on for Big Ben a little too long. And they got to figure, and plus they got to make a decision, because I believe Russ is still going to stay for the Steelers. Because if it's either Russell Wilson or Justin Fields, you're probably not going to get any of these quarterbacks in the draft. You might as well keep Russ at this point. But when do you think it's time for the Steelers to say enough of Mike Tomlin? We appreciate all your services. We appreciate the 2 Super Bowl appearances, the Super Bowl. But at the same time, the standard that you're setting now isn't enough to the same old standard that we once had in Pittsburgh. Steel City. We're known for championships. At one point, before the Patriots tied the record, we had the most record for the most Super Bowls. So, what changes need to be made? BRF, I'm going to let you go first.
I mean, what really can you do that's going to make them better instantly right now? I mean, firing Mike Tomlin is definitely not the answer, because even though Mike Tomlin does look a little Doc Rivers is right now. I mean, point being, he's still like, I mean, he is. He's looking a little Doc Rivers is right now. I mean,
he is.
He got that one championship with that really, really loaded Pittsburgh Steelers team when they beat the Arizona Cardinals. And since then, I mean, you could kind of make the claim some of it was Bill Cowher's team, some of it was a little bit of his input. But I mean, these past few years, it's basically been him at the helm. It's been, his vision and all that. And it's like, you haven't done anything. But still though, I mean, granted, winning seasons and just getting to the playoffs should not be the moniker of the Pittsburgh Steelers when you are the most winningest franchise in terms of Super Bowls in the NFL. I mean, that shouldn't be your MO. I mean, but at the same time, you got to look at least Mike Tomlin, if you want to be positive about it and have a glass half full kind of mindset about it. He's getting you to the dance. Now, yeah, he's getting you to the dance. Now, do you go home before the last call of the dance? Yeah, you've been doing that a lot. But he at least getting you to the dance. So I look at the Pittsburgh Steelers and I think about what they could do to ultimately be better. Is like, I don't know, improve, maybe get better at the running back position. I mean, granted, I get Najee Harris is putting up like 1,000 yards every season, but if you if you really kind of dive deep and look at the context and look at the numbers he's putting up, particularly the yards per carry, that 1,000, it's not an easy 1,000. Like it's not like a Saquon 1,000. It's not a Bijan 1,000 or Josh Jacobs or Derrick Henry. It's like he's getting there, but it's like, is it really that great? You know what I mean? So maybe an improvement at the running back position. Get somebody there, get a running back there with more playmaking ability, some breakaway action, someone who's a little more of a playmaker, possibly an upgrade at the running back position. You really don't need the defense. You really don't need to touch because the defense is going to be there. You got T.J. Watt, you got Alex Highsmith, you have Minka Fitzpatrick. I mean, you got Joey Porter Jr. I mean, you got great pieces on the defense, so you really don't need to do much on the defense. The offense, and then don't even mention Cam Hayward at his age, still balling the way he is. So I mean, the defense, I don't think you really can do much there. And then the offensive line, possibly improve that offensive line. I just think, kind of a tweak here, a tweak there. You might have something. It's one of those where it's like they're not bad enough to make a bunch of addition by subtraction moves, but they're not good enough to where they need to stand pat, if you know what I mean. But Mike Tomlin, firing him is not the way to go. But I just have this sneaky suspicion he's one actual having a losing season away from getting fired. So there's definitely something that we need to monitor as far as the Mike Tomlin situation go. Because I really feel like going into next year, if they have a losing season, he's gone. And that's honestly how I feel. But you need to have a plan in place, and you need to know who you're going to get if you fire Mike Tomlin. Because I guarantee you this, the amount of bad teams that are still out there, Mike Tomlin as a free agent will be one of the most sought after head coaching candidates, regardless of what people think. Because at the end of the day, he's one of the winningest coaches of this generation. And say what you want, the dude has a championship. The dude has been at the helm of one of the more prestigious franchises in the league and one of the most well-run franchises at that. I mean, good gracious, 3 coaches in 40 years? 3 coaches in basically 35 plus years. Chuck Noll, Bill Cowher, Mike Tomlin. That's it. That just speaks to that front office and their ability to go out and find the right guys to lead them for like decades plus. I mean, that just speaks to how good that front office has been. I mean, like I said, I can see a tweak here, a tweak there. Maybe improve the running game, improve the offensive line a little bit. But I don't know. They're kind of like stuck. They're a little bit stuck in limbo to me because it's like I said, they're not bad enough to really make a lot of changes, but they're not good enough to stand pat. But I do think ultimately, at the end of the day, right now, Mike Tomlin, getting rid of him just ain't the way to go. But I do think the leash is a little short. Particularly going into 2025, because I just do think he's a losing season away from getting it. Because I honestly think the Steelers fan base and a lot of people, to a certain extent, are waiting on that losing season. I think they're really waiting on it, but I don't know. We'll just have to have the wait and see approach on that. I don't think fire him now is just the way to go. But like I said, improve the running game, improve the offensive line a little bit. Maybe, I don't know. Ain't really too much you need to mess with on that defense, but I mean, we'll kind of see from there. And then and like the whole Russell Wilson, Justin Fields thing. That's probably, like, in my opinion, the biggest conundrum here with them as far as where they're going to go. Do they keep both of them going into next year? I don't know. I think they probably do, just to have the insurance policy there in case Russ gets hurt. But we'll see. They're in a very, very unique situation, kind of like in between the rock and the hard place. So we really kind of have to monitor Pittsburgh and see where they're going to go here. But yeah. It's hard to really gauge what they ought to do, but I definitely don't think firing Mike Tomlin is a decision they really need to make going into 2025. But we'll see where it goes.
Appreciate the Doc Rivers analogy of BRF. Champ,
Yeah, I like that too. That was cool. Don't fire him. Trade him.
where to?
Trade him. Do you know how many teams who would die to have Mike Tomlin as their coach right now?
Just don't trade him to Dallas, please. Don't trade him to
I
Dallas.
mean, if Dallas give me 2 first-round picks in the second round and the third, bye. That's just the long and short of it. I mean, that's an interesting proposition for a team who needs a quarterback at this point. People are not talking about this as much. These are the same. The only difference between Bill Cowher and Mike Tomlin is that Bill Cowher did not play in the social media era. That's the only difference. Bill Cowher had the same type of problems with the same type of big personality players. He had problems with Cordell Stewart, his quarterback. He had problems with Bam Morris. Remember, Bam Morris kept getting in trouble. That's how come they ended up trading for Jerome Bettis. Had problems with Yancey Thickpen. So, this is nothing new for the Steelers organization. They're known for getting rid of good players. They got rid of Bam Morris. Cordell Stewart, after he was having problems, they was having problems with Cordell Stewart. After he laid that egg in the AFC Championship, he was pretty much gone after that. So these are the problems that have occurred before in the Pittsburgh organization. And you remember this. They didn't really have a true quarterback until Bill Cowher and the Steelers drafted Big Ben. Before then, it was a revolving door. You had a guy for a few years and then boom. They had Neil O'Donnell for a few years, boom. They had Cordell Stewart for a few years, then boom. Then finally Tommy Maddox came. Then boom, he had that one magical year where he went 10-6. Then after that, boom. They don't have a quarterback. They don't. And I understand nowadays, I understand the Mike Tomlin and the Steeler football way, but that does not work anymore. You need a quarterback to air that ball out like a ceiling fan on Sunday, especially if you want to compete in the AFC North right now. You got a 3-time MVP up there you got to compete with every year. You got Joe Burrow to compete with every single year. And that's just in your division. Let's not even get into the fact that you still have Josh Allen to compete with. You still have the final boss of the NFL right now, Patrick Mahomes, to compete with. You still have Justin Herbert, regardless of how he did. You still have Justin Herbert out there. All of these teams that are in playoff contention every single year. Oh, CJ Stroud, let's not forget about him as well. All of these teams that are in playoff contention nearly every single year and in Super, they have one X factor. That's their quarterback. In the great words of Ron Meyer from the infamous team of SMU back in the 80s, if you don't have a quarterback, you 88 not the gate.
Or in the words of John Madden, champ, if you have 2 quarterbacks, you have none.
Exactly. So the thing is, you need a quarterback that is not only going to be a leader of men, that is going to stabilize this organization. And darn it, Mike Tomlin, you got to stop. Get an offensive coordinator, quarterback coach, and stick with him. I understand that's what you tried to do with Matt Canada, but once you see something that's not working anymore, stop.
How's it working right now with Arthur Smith?
Yes, if you see something ain't working, stop. Stop it. It's not worth it. Why cling to a mistake just because you're being so consistent with it? So that's the thing. The only criticism that I have for Mike Tomlin is this. You did not win when you had those superstar players on your roster. When you had a loaded roster that was loaded to bear, you didn't win with it. You was choking. When you had Antonio Brown, Le'Veon Bell, Juju, just to name a few, not so good. You was getting to them championship games and then the divisional playoff game, and you was choking it away. So the only thing that I will say, like I said, Pittsburgh went through this before with Bill Cowher. He was having trouble with a lot of superstar players. Like I said, the only difference is Bill Cowher didn't play in the social media era. Like I said, he had troublesome players like Cordell Stewart and Bam Morris. Bam Morris kept getting in trouble. So this is something that we've seen before out of that Pittsburgh organization. It's just now the light is amplified on you a hell of a lot more because it's social media. It's 24-hour sports right about now, and you don't have a quarterback. And you have some talented players on that defensive side. Seem like their prime is wasting away. And add the Steeler mystique. The Steelers are not known for making playoffs. They known for Lombardi trophies. Mike Tomlin said it himself. When I come to work in the morning, I don't see rushing titles. I see Lombardi trophies. So the thing is, Mike Tomlin, you got to find a quarterback. That's number one. Number two, you got to figure out a way to reach these young players. And if they aren't, and I'm going to just be real, if they aren't living up to par, get their behinds out of there. The thing is, the Pittsburgh Steelers draft wide receivers so good. Guess what? When Santonio Holmes, by the time Santonio Holmes was out of there, Mike Wallace was already stepping up. By the time they got Mike Wallace out of there, Antonio Brown was already stepping up. By the time they got Antonio Brown out of there, Claypool and Juju was already stepping up. And by the time they got those two guys out of there, Pickens and Darnell Washington was already stepping up. You can draft good wide receivers. I don't know why you so heck bent on sticking with these guys when you know they're troublesome. Let them go somewhere else and get you some more guys in there that you know you're going to get them to do what they're supposed to be doing.
But that's the problem, Jim. He tolerates bad behavior. And the only reason why he tolerates the bad behavior because of the production. As Shannon Sharp has often said, when the production is high, so is tolerance. But once the production is gone, tolerance is out the window. And you see some of these wide receivers now. I mean, look at Deontay Johnson. Think about it. He went from Pittsburgh. He was in Carolina, gets traded to Baltimore. He gets released from Baltimore. He goes to Houston. He gets released from Houston. And now he's in Baltimore.
That goes back to what I always said when you first invited me on your podcast. When them guys leave Pittsburgh, they ain't never the same. Never.
Yep.
Look at Yancey Thickpen, Mike Wallace, Antonio Brown. Every last one of them. Santonio Holmes. Ain't none of them ever the same. It's a system. That's the thing. It's a system. None of those Pro Bowl wide receivers were ever the same once they left Pittsburgh, whether it was because of their personality, whether it was because of their decline in play, whether because of injuries, they were never the same. So the thing is, and by the time they was before they was out of the door, they had already been replaced. When you see something troublesome, leave it alone. My thing is, we all want to fix a problem, but sometimes, man, look, problems can't be fixed. And I know people get so concerned about, the whole thing about, well, one person's trash is another person's treasure. I'm gonna just be real with you. Hey, in the NFL, a lot of teams will gladly dump their waste upon you so you can deal with their problems. Like my father always said, don't buy nobody else's problems. Just being real. So that's what Mike Tomlin has to work on. When these players are not performing up to par, suspend them. Get them up out of there. And that's why a lot of these hard-nosed coaches are so successful. You can go from being hard-nosed to being soft. You can't go from being soft to hard-nosed because people are going to look at you like a joke then. That's the thing. That's why Mike Tomlin won. That's why Jimmy Johnson won. That's why Bill Parcells won. That's why Bill Belichick won. That's why a lot of these hard-nosed coaches end up winning so many titles. Like I said, you could go from being a hard-nosed coach. Look at what Bill Belichick, look at how much he tolerated from the late I can't say his name, the late tight end that he had on that Patriots team. Look how much he tolerated from them. That's what I mean, hard on everybody. But when it comes to this guy, okay, let me wrap my arm around. You could go from being hard to soft. You can't go from being soft to hard. For lack of a better term, I would say.
No, I feel you, champ, because I feel like you can be the type of coach that can hold a player accountable, but at the same time, you can encourage and motivate them and get them to play at a certain level or help them maximize their potential or make them go farther in their career that they ever imagined. It could be the system. It could be what Mike Tomlin has condoned. Could it also be because of the generational thing? Because again, a lot of these young guys and how they're treated compared to a lot of the players back then. And I think Mike Tomlin has to be more, I think he has to hold them accountable so that they can understand and realize there's consequences to your actions. And when you're not living up to the par, when you're not playing to a certain level or standard, there comes with consequences. And with George Pickens, Shannon Sharp, I know you watch Nightcap. Boy, has he been killing George Pickens, and rightfully so, for giving up on routes, not giving enough effort. And George Pickens, and I know it hurts you, champ, because again, he played at your school, UGA.
Yeah.
How much does it hurt you to see him playing like this?
Well, the thing is, look, I hate to see that because the thing is, you have too much talent for that, number one. You have too much talent for that. Number two, I'm going to put this in a mild way. How we say it down south. When you think you're playing, you're really playing yourself. And when you play yourself, and when you play chicken long enough, you fry. What do I mean by that? When you're giving up on routes, do you think any other team is willing to make you a high-paid wide receiver and bring you into their organization?
Absolutely not.
Do you think with the behavior problems that you're doing in Pittsburgh that they're willing to give you a huge contract?
No.
They think you're going to be another Antonio Brown. Because if you're doing this with an organization that, tolerates it, what are you going to do when you get to another organization that say, no, brother, we ain't having that? That's the thing. I don't think a lot of these players realize that. When you out here giving up on routes, everybody is not going to get the same grace as Randy Moss did in his career. He had Dennis Green. And rest his soul. And not only was he able to, wrap his arm around Moss, he was able to get Moss to do what he needed to do outside of his personality.
Not to mention Chris Carter.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's what I was getting to.
Yeah.
And he had Chris Carter. So everybody doesn't get that type of grace. Everybody's not going to get that grace. And you saw when he got to Oakland, he stopped getting that grace. So when you out here giving up on routes and doing simple little stuff like that, you're playing yourself. Because guess what? You still on that rookie contract. You still got to get another one. Yeah. So when you sit around here and I want to give up on routes and I don't think, and I'm going to run my mouth during press conference, you ain't doing that but playing yourself. Because right now, you got 1,000 yards last year on the least amount of targets. You really think a team is not looking at that? So the thing is, and right now, wide receivers are making bank. Look what they just gave Tyreek Hill just a year ago. Look what they just gave Justin Jefferson. Look what they just gave a hell of a lot of other wide receivers. CD Lamb. So you can make your money as a wide receiver. But if they see that you are not up to par and not living up to the standard of being a great wide receiver and you loafing around, who's going to waste that time giving you that big time money? That's why I said earlier, when you play too much, you play yourself. And when you play chicken long enough, you fry. And that's what's been happening to a lot of these Pittsburgh wide receivers. They played chicken too much when they was in Pittsburgh, and then they went somewhere else and got deep fried.
All right. Appreciate that perspective, champ. Let's talk about the next game that we saw last weekend. Bills versus the Broncos. Bills won that game. Bo Nix had to play with 3 back fractures. Oosh, that is really painful, but give courage to
standing up.
I don't know how
How you standing up?
He had to wear some type of he had to wear like an extra flap jacket or something or whatever just to get him going through the day. But the Bills in the second half, they made it. I mean, the turning point was that 4th-and-1 pass by Josh Allen to Ty Johnson for that touchdown. And then suddenly later, Broncos, they couldn't handle the Bills. It was about it. So what were y'all thoughts on that game?
The Bills was just too much for them to handle. They are a good team, the Broncos, but it's just they're not. You're not gonna come out here and just match wits with Josh Allen and that team. That team is ready. That team's ready. And Bo Nix, he just fell victim to, hey man, you're a rookie, first time in the playoffs. Welcome to the NFL. You facing these veterans now. This ain't Auburn. This ain't Oregon. So yeah, you just fell victim to one of the best quarterbacks in the league in Josh Allen, because they came out there to play. And big ups to James Cook, man. Let James cook. Because I don't think he gets a lot of credit in that offense, because fact of the matter is he was second in the league in rushing touchdowns. But I digress. So, yeah, that team was more equipped to deal with the moment than the Denver Broncos. This is Sean Payton's second year with the team. First year with Bo Nix, second year with the team. And when you're a rookie, there are growing pains involved. You're going to have some growing pains. You're not going to go out here and win a Super Bowl right off the rip. So with that being said, it's just the Bill. The mathematics is very, very simple. The Bills was too much for them, and the Broncos are not ready for the lights up under the burning lights of the playoffs, I would say. And that's all there was to it, man. Big ups to Josh Allen and that team for coming out here and just doing their thing, because that's exactly what happened. They got deep fried.
BRF.
Yeah, I mean, there's really not a lot to really analyze in this game. When I look at this game, I look at the Buffalo Bills maintaining possession for like 43 minutes of the game, 72 plays. James Cook some more, James Cook a little more, and then James Cook some more to basically shut it down. But I mean, that game was just, yeah, I mean, it boils down to, like, Bo Nix made that ridiculous touchdown pass at the beginning of the game, and you're thinking, okay, long touchdown pass to Troy Franklin. Okay, we got a little something. But then Buffalo reminded them why that they're one of those teams that are like on the cusp of really doing something to win a championship. And Buffalo just, they had to kind of withstand that early flurry, and then got going in there. They got in their mold, and they just dominated from there on out. I mean, there's really not much more you can really say. Buffalo's playoff tested. They came and they showed up and they did what they needed to do. Denver's a really good story. Don't get me wrong. It was a really good story of them making the playoffs, and Bo Nix exceeding my expectations this year. But it just ultimately came down to Buffalo was clearly the better team, and it showed. They did everything they needed to do in terms of running the ball well, playing good defense, making plays. Just that I'd say from like that. If you want to say the last third of the second quarter through the second half, that was pretty much Buffalo just kind of saying, all right, that's it. We let y'all have your fun. and now we about to put it on you for the rest of the game, and that's exactly what they did. And Denver will be back because they got pieces there. I think they will be back. They're going to be a problem in that AFC West, but Buffalo's a team trying to win the Super Bowl now, and they just kind of looked at Denver, pretty much the first step, the first obstacle, and they threw them out the way. And now it's on to the Baltimore Ravens, and I feel like that is definitely the most anticipated game of the entire weekend. But yeah, Buffalo just Buffalo just reminded people that they've been here before, and they kind of had to kind of shoo Denver out the way to really kind of get to where they want to be at, and that's ultimately a Super Bowl title.
All right, fellas, let's talk about Green Bay versus Philadelphia. Tough game for the Green Bay Packers. Tough game for Jordan Love. Not the type of game that you would expect Jordan Love to have. I mean, even though he's been dealing with injuries all throughout the season, I mean, they lost some of their wide receivers. But I got to give credit to the Philadelphia Eagles. I mean, their defense, they were loaded in that game. And they just Saquon, what can you ask from Saquon? 25 carries, 119 yards. Had a quiet game because how dominant the Eagles defense were against the Packers. And unfortunately for the Eagles, N'Kobe Dean, he's going to be out. So that's a big blow for the Philadelphia Eagles. DRF, I'm going to let you go first, man. What were your thoughts about the Eagles Packers game?
The Eagles defense has basically continued to show me why they've been one of the hottest singular units in all of the National Football League, really the last 2 months of the season. Say what you will about the Green Bay Packers. I mean, they do have a formidable offense. Granted, they've had some pieces hurt, but they still have a formidable offense. They still have Jordan Love. They still had Josh Jacobs. They still had Jaden Reed. I mean, they still had Tucker Kraft, who's really been a surprise this season at the tight end spot. Philadelphia just able to dictate the tempo. They were able to dictate the tempo, but I will say this, for the Green Bay Packers to lose as many pieces as they did on offense and to still have a shot to win that game, definite shout out to Green Bay for hanging in there and fighting as long as they did. Philadelphia should be a little disappointed with the performance because honestly, they should have really took it to Green Bay. They really should have. They really should have took it to Green Bay, knowing they were out all those pieces. So they should be a little bit disappointed with their performance. But at the same time, if I'm the defense, I just keep stacking the building blocks. I keep doing what I need to do. Granted, N'Kobe Dean is gonna be a blow because he was starting to feel it. He was starting to come into his own this year. So losing him was definitely a blow. But you still got Jalen Carter. You still got Jordan Davis. Nolan Smith is starting to come into his own rushing the passer. He's starting to come into his own. And I mean, what more does there need to be said about the duo of Quinyon Mitchell and Cooper DeJean that hasn't already been said? I mean, what they're doing as rookies at the cornerback position is almost unheard of. I mean, to come in and both dominate on their side of the field at the exact same time is nothing short of just Howie Roseman being the best executive in all of football. It's pretty much what it boils down to. Howie Roseman is the best executive in football. I don't think that should really be a doubt. That should be consensus.
I've said that.
That should be
many times.
yeah.
He's the type of person that will make big moves out of nowhere.
But yeah, exactly, PSP. You said that countless times. And I mean, it just comes from a standpoint of scouting, understanding who's out there, and not being scared to take those chances where other GMs won't take those chances. And 9 times out of 10, his chances hit because he's got the right personnel beneath him in the scouting department. They go out and they're making these moves. They're looking at these players and they're pulling the trigger and they're getting it right. I mean, good gracious. All the goddamn defensive players he got from the University of Georgia, and almost all of them coming out making an impact. N'Kobe Dean making an impact before he got hurt. Jalen Carter, Jordan Davis, Nolan Smith making an impact. I mean, shoot, Keely Ringo's been out there making some plays every so often, so it ain't like he ain't been out there either. So, I mean, it's just the Philadelphia Eagles being a step ahead of people as far as their scouting department. Howie Roseman's the best executive in football. I mean, I don't think that really should be a debate at this point in time. Saquon Barkley, man, if you want to talk about a godsend for the Philadelphia Eagles, Saquon Barkley for this offensive line. I mean, it's like I'm honestly though, I'm not really surprised though, because we've said it plenty of times. It's like an offensive line like the Philadelphia Eagles will make a good running back great and a great running back legendary. That's the Philadelphia Eagles offensive line in a nutshell. And that's exactly what they've done with Saquon Barkley. They have taken one of the elite talents of the National Football League, and he's basically turned out one of the greatest single seasons in the history of the National Football League.
Mm-hmm.
Hitting 2K. Basically not breaking Eric Dickerson's record because they wanted to rest, even though I still feel it was the right move. You're trying to win a championship. And Jordan Love, I do feel for the Green Bay Packers though, man, because Jordan Love tried, boy. He was trying to will him. He was trying to will him to the promised land. And it's like I said, they were down 9 in that game, playing with a mass unit, having a shot to win that game. Josh Jacobs, that run, I believe it was the third quarter. That run where he almost the one where he almost took it to the house. Dude almost pulled his jersey in two. They couldn't tackle him. He gets it all the way down to the 1 yard line. That just shows you, like, the Green Bay Packers, they were not going to go down without a fight. So you definitely have to give them kudos and show them love. And they are definitely going to be a problem in the NFC North for years to come, as long as they can keep everybody healthy, because they most certainly miss Christian Watson, because even though Jaden Reed is a talented playmaker at the wide receiver position, Christian Watson gives them the element of just that beating the defense over the top. He gives them that element, and not having that, you're relying on intermediate routes. You're relying on guys needing to get open and find their spots. And Philadelphia's defense do a tremendous job at shutting that down, because their guys know how to cover. They know how to stay on their man. They know how to eliminate all that, and they know how to stop you before you can really get too far as run after the catch. So honestly, it was just a matter of, it was mostly just the Philadelphia Eagles understanding what they needed to do, and that they needed to dictate the tempo to really just kind of control the game. And even though the score was 22-10, for me, didn't really indicate how close that game really was. But that Philadelphia defense, I mean, what more can you say? The Philadelphia offense really needs to step up here, because the LA Rams, the way they've been playing on defense, the Philadelphia Eagles they do need to step it up on the offensive side of the ball. But this game just came down to running in defense, and just then dictating the pace and slowing it down, and just really forcing your will upon the Green Bay Packers. So the Philadelphia Eagles were just a better, more physical team that day. The better, more physical team won that game.
Champ?
Oh, man. Is Quinyon Mitchell and Cooper DeJean, are both of those rookies?
They are both rookies, sir.
You know what? You know who that rookie combination remind me of, BRF?
Who?
You remember Eric Wright and Ronnie Lott back in 81?
Ooh, that's a good one.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
Yeah. Remember when they needed a cornerback tandem and they went right out of college and got those guys? Yeah, that's exactly. Hey, they remind me of Lott and Eric Wright. The only difference is the talent between Wright and Ronnie Lott was by like a mile, but with these guys, they are on an equal footing, if you really want me to be honest with you, as far as athleticism, skill, and hit power as well. So that's equivalent to that Eric Wright and Ronnie Lott combination that they had back in 81, one of the best rookie combinations you ever want to see. But I digress, man. Look, people are trying to hop on Jordan Love. Half of his offensive line was out. What is my favorite saying? The quarterback can't throw on his back. And that's exactly what they was doing to Jordan Love. Then his number 1 and 2 wide receiver was out. I mean, how can you beat a team as formidable as the Philadelphia Eagles with all of that going against you. Granted, you have a good defense, but how can you win with every odd going against you? Let's be for real. As far as Philadelphia is concerned, look, I know people are going to say, Jalen Hurts didn't turn the ball over. It should have been when you have an offense without a lot of their offensive players, their offensive line, and you force turnovers. You should score every play. You should score early and you should score often. Now, I'm gonna say this: good job to the Philadelphia Bulldogs in order to do your thing against the Packers. But you can't bring that same team against LA. Their defense is just as good, and their offense can put up some darn points. Not only that, they're reeling off of emotion right about now. They're trying to win for their city as well. So when they come to Lincoln Financial Field, and not to mention, they just put a whooping on the Vikings with a great defense, a defense that's just as good as yours. So Philadelphia, watch your step. In the great words of Mystical, watch yourself. Because if you bring that performance on offense that you had on offense against the Rams, it's going to be a whole nother ball game. Because this is not, and for people who are going to say, well, they did score. This is not the Philadelphia offense that we've seen all season. This offense is averaging almost 30 points a game, even with them running the ball as heavily as they did. It was averaging almost 30 points a game. So this is not the normal Philadelphia Eagles that we was able to see during the season where they're clicking on all cylinders. We need that Philadelphia offense like it was during the second half of the season.
Mm-hmm. I think with Green Bay, look, they still have a bright future with Matt LaFleur, Jordan Love. Jordan Love's got to do a better job making the smart decisions. I don't know, BRF, because I don't know if you were on Brandon's pod, but boy, there was a certain individual that made an argument for Malik Willis.
Why?
Over
Why?
Jordan
I
Love.
was not on that show Monday, but I heard about that, and man,
Yeah, for what?
I
For me bringing
don't
it
know how
up?
to respond to that. I don't know how to respond to that.
Look, I ain't finna
We
call
love
out
you, Leaf, but no Leaf. We love you, but no.
Mr. New York City. Please don't ever, in the great words of Will Smith, y'all will never do that again. Number one, like I said, man, look, have grace on these young quarterbacks. When your whole, like I said, you better off winning with your wide receivers not being in the game than you are with your offensive line being out. Have some grace on these quarterbacks, man. Look, and it's only his second year. It's only his second year. Since when did we start holding quarterbacks' feet to the fire during their second year when they haven't won an MVP or they haven't been to an NFC championship or they haven't been to a Super Bowl? This is his second year as a starter.
Mm-hmm.
And we're talking about him and Malik Willis. Hell, you better off put me out there if you're going to put Malik Willis out there. I'll take a 5-day contract. And I can't throw fast. I can't throw past 30 yards. So I got 30 yards on me. That's all you go get. So have grace on these young quarterbacks. Stop putting the carriage before the horse. And let's show these quarterbacks some grace. Like I said, I understand that he has a huge contract, but it's only his second year. Remember, in Aaron Rodgers' second year, they was running him out of town. People don't remember that. Oh, I forgot. We only remember what happens today. But during certain quarterbacks' second year, only their second year as the starter, they were running them out of town, especially when you're replacing a legend like an Aaron Rodgers. They was trying to run Aaron Rodgers out of town during his second year. During Steve Young's second year as the full-time starter in San Francisco, they was trying to run him out of town because he was replacing Joe Montana. It's only his second year. Let's stop. Let's stop holding these quarterbacks in their second year as the starter up to the standard as a 5 or 6, as a 6 to 7 year veteran like a Josh Allen. They're not there yet.
That's the problem I think a lot of us have, champ, with these young quarterbacks, because when they get drafted, much is expected, much is given, much is expected. And look, I think for Jordan Love, he'll get better. And look, you've told us before. I think the problem is a lot of these young quarterbacks, we rush them. We, as in the media, the public, everyone else, we rush them and we want to see them play right away rather than sit and learn. Jordan Love, look, has sat for 3 years behind Aaron Rodgers, kind of like how Aaron Rodgers sat for 3 years behind Brett Favre. Not saying that he's going to be those types of quarterbacks, but it doesn't hurt sitting. It doesn't hurt just to learn, just to go through the nuances, just to go through all the problems first until you ultimately get to the ultimate goal, champ. I just think we got to wait. But if we see more of this play, then we got to say something. Then we got to hold on. We've seen too many of this now. This is becoming a pattern. Calm down. We got to say something. But I got to give credit to the Eagles defense, because they were all after Jordan Love, whether Jordan Love was injured or not. And yes, the offensive line wasn't there, but still, the Eagles defense just showed you. And we'll talk about the Rams and Eagles. But last game before on NFL recap, the Commanders versus the Buccaneers. Man, I was happy. I was excited. First time since 2005, the Commanders finally won a playoff game. Nothing more I need to say about Jaden Daniels. I actually thought that Gonzalez, the kicker, almost missed a field goal because he doinked it, though. But thank God that wasn't the case, because had he missed it, oh boy, I probably would throw my helmet out the house, kind of like I did last time when the Cowboys beat the Commanders. Y'all remember that game? Y'all saw my reactions that day, which I was very, very, very heated. But big ups to the Washington Commanders. Unfortunately for me, Baker Mayfield lost and the season is over. But heck, Baker Mayfield's gonna make another Pro Bowl. Baker had a hell of a season. The Washington Commanders, man, 12 wins, first time since 2005. He finally won a playoff game. We did everything well. Time of possession, we won over the turnover battle. Dan Quinn, I give him a lot of credit for going for it on fourth down from time to time. That's what he does best, as well as Cliff Kingsbury, who I've been very critical of. At one point, I even said I wanted him gone, but I'm starting to believe more and more with this team. Now, we will talk about Washington versus Detroit later on the show, but I was very happy for the Commanders getting the win, man. This is big. Again, I've never questioned or doubted Jaden Daniels' talent. What I questioned was his size. He's proving me wrong. Terry McLaurin is showing people what he's capable of. And big ups to De'Ami Brown. He was the X factor in that game. 5 catches, 89 yards. He played well too. He also had a touchdown in that game. And look, the first half of the game, we struggled stopping Mike Evans. And we knew that Mike Evans, Marshawn Lattimore, their beef, their rivalry. Y'all know this better than anybody, all from the NFC South. But oh man. It's a beautiful day in Chocolate City in Washington, D.C. Very happy. What a heck of a season that the Commanders have had. Whoever thought that a team who won 4 games last year managed to make the playoffs with a rookie quarterback like Jaden Daniels and this team, man. I feel like this is just only the beginning, because with the new ownership with Josh Harris and Magic Johnson compared to the previous ownership and Daniel Snyder, we have something. Think about all the horrible moves. I don't want to regurgitate, but think of the horrible moves under Dan Snyder, the Josh Norman deal, the Albert Hainsworth deal, the worst free agent signing in NFL history. You could actually make that argument. All the other things that have transpired in the Washington ownership in the Dan Snyder era. But now with the new ownership, Josh Harris and Magic Johnson, I love it. I also love Magic Johnson. He was there at the playoff game as well. This was an exciting feeling, man. Very happy feeling. Champ, I'm gonna let you go first, man. What were your thoughts on the game?
Oh man, look, one thing that I will give the great Magic Johnson from my Los Angeles Lakers the credit for is he said the one thing that we be saying about a lot of other owners. Put people in place, then get out of the way and let them do their jobs. That quote is whoever it was for. Let
Jerry
guys
Jones.
put
Oh my bad. Them allergies, bro. I am so sorry. Proceed, my brother.
so put guys in position, then step out of the way. Step out of the way. And look, big ups to this club, man, because second year of ownership is looking up. Like I said before, man, the Washington Commanders are some hogs away from being true contenders, man. Because they got a lot of good building blocks in place, man. Got the quarterback, got the receiver, got the tight end. You got a good two-back system. I think that needs a little bit of an upgrade, but not too much. You know, Brian Robinson and Austin Eckler do struggle with injuries, but you know their durability can be in question at times. But I think they got the pieces in order to be successful. They need to really address that offensive line because you know as you get late into the season and get into the playoffs, you know you got to protect your greatest asset. And if you don't believe that, ask the Indianapolis Colts and ask the Cincinnati Bengals. Because, you know, Indianapolis with with Andrew Luck and, you know, Joe Burrow for all of his brilliance, he's missed two years, almost 2 years.
You ain't got to remind me, champ. You know, 13 years ago, I had to deal with another quarterback who was a Heisman Trophy winner and who was a number 2 overall pick, kind of like Jaden Daniels, who I thought I had a future with, but unfortunately it went short.
Yeah.
Went fast like like a bag of sand.
You know what? I will say this. A lot of people blame those injuries, but I blame another factor in them. I blame a lot of that on Jay Gruden. And you notice he ain't worked in the NFL since. But I digress.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so you know, he ain't
I
worked
do
in the
put that
NFL.
on. I do put that on RG as well because it was reported he wanted to change the offense and he wanted to be a pocket passer like Peyton.
I mean, the thing is this. I'm gonna just be real. When a running quarterback runs all the time, he gets criticism, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when I come to you as a player and say I want to be a true to the game quarterback, and I don't want to cheat to position, and I don't want to rely on my legs every single play and be considered a running quarterback, why am I being knocked for that? And not only that, you have your roots are Jay Gruden's, his roots are in the West Coast offense. That is not a running system for a quarterback. Back then, that was the original West Coast offense. It's not for running quarterbacks. That's what they were running, the West Coast offense. So when you're running the West Coast offense, it's not for running quarterbacks. It's for the running back to be great. So the thing is, I blame a lot of that. And look who was on that staff. You had Kyle Shanahan was on that staff.
Sean McVay.
Sean McVay, and Mike McDaniel. No playoff appearance, no nothing. So that falls back to the head coach. And like I said, he hasn't been in the NFL under any capacity since. So that just goes to show how much of an ingrate he was anyway. He was If you ask me, him and John Gruden are the Kim Kardashians of coaching. It's just a lot of personality, not enough flair. And I'm just gonna be real. That was Tony Dungy's team. And for anybody who said, well, Tony Dungy proved that he was a great coach when he went to Indianapolis and won with an offensive team. He proved that he was a great coach. John Gruden won that Super Bowl, and the very next year, that team went down. That team went down like a chicken sandwich at my house. So it just, that's how bad it was. And that team was made the playoffs one time. So for people who are saying, well, that, John Gruden did a lot. Yes, I'll admit, yes, they won a Super Bowl with him. But I'm gonna just be real. Dungy proved how great he was when he went to Indianapolis and won a Super Bowl with them. Not only, and then set them up to go to another Super Bowl with Jim Caldwell as the offensive coordinator. That's how good Tony Dungy was. And not only that, people who want to say, well, that was John Gruden's team. I'm going to give you an example of winning with another person's team versus winning with your team. 1989, George Seifert takes over the San Francisco 49ers. He wins the championship. People say that's Bill Walsh's team still. Okay, you give him that. 1994, 5 years later, he wins with Steve Young. A lot of Bill Walsh's guys, Ronnie Lott, Charles Haley, all those guys are gone. That's what you call winning with your team. George Seifert did that. John Gruden did not. When Tony Dungy went to Indianapolis and won with that team, that was his team. So guess what? Jay Gruden, the Gruden brothers, like I said, they're the Kim Kardashians of coaching. A lot of flair, a lot of mouth, and a lot of, Jimmy Hart type of antics, but really no real flair.
BRF.
Shout out. Hey man, I kind of I was going back and forth picking that game, man. And then it just kind of hit me at the gut. The gut was saying Washington was gonna get this. That's why I ultimately went with Washington, man. I just had a gut feeling, man. Washington was gonna get them. It played out a little bit like the Atlanta game for us. It was like Tampa could move the ball on offense, but then it's like Washington was just able to kind of dictate the tempo with their running game, and ultimately were able to keep Tampa from making a lot of big plays, and kind of like a war of attrition, kind of in a way. Like Washington just made more plays. And Jay Daniels is like cold. Like I could imagine in a situation like that what his pulse is like. Like in a big situation like that, it's just like he's cold. He's cool under pressure. He's fearless under pressure. Like the moment don't scare him. It doesn't scare him. It's like the lights just, they're not too bright for him, and he knows when to make plays. He knows how to win games. I mean, what more do you got to say about him? He knows how to win. He knows how to win, and that was just a really good game. They just made more plays in Tampa. I mean, that fumble, that Baker Mayfield fumble on that play where they tried to run the reverse, and Baker Mayfield just didn't get the timing right on the handoff. I mean, you want to talk about a turning point? Just Washington, the fact that Washington got that turnover and they were just able to capitalize on it. It was just that's just a scrappy team going out making more plays. The game was, I mean, it was just honestly not a lot of. I mean, it was a lower scoring game than I was anticipating, but still, I mean, the execution was there. Both teams were executing on both sides of the ball. I mean, Washington just made fewer mistakes. The biggest mistake of the game ultimately was what bit Tampa in the end. And just Washington just like that. Just, I don't know, like that game. I just had like this weird feeling, this gut feeling Like I know a lot of people are going to pick Tampa because Tampa should be able to run the ball against Washington. They should be able to. They thought Tampa was going to be able to dictate the pace, make it a faster pace game, something a little faster. Throwing like as far as the passing attack that maybe Washington was going to want, but ultimately, Tampa just didn't do enough on offense. They didn't make enough plays throwing the ball. Washington was just teams like Washington. You just can't let hang in there because with that quarterback, with Jaden Daniels, man, he's gonna find a way to make the necessary plays and win games. You can't let a team like Washington hang around. And Detroit, you better be listening to us talking about this. You can't let a team like Washington hang around. You can't let a team like Washington hang around because you let them hang around. Something's gonna happen, like a key pass or a big run, or in this case, the turnover, on the fumble. Something's gonna happen that goes Washington's way, and they're gonna capitalize and they're gonna take advantage. And that's exactly what they did. And shout out to them. They wanted it more. They deserved that win, and they went out and Tampa, honestly, Washington took it from them. I mean, just no ifs, ands, or buts about it. That's what you say about a game like that. Washington just took it from them, and like Champ said, man, they are good. They are a good offensive line away from being a real NFC Championship threat. I honestly think they kind of are now, to be honest with you, because I said they had a shot. I said they had a shot to get there, just because they play. They play the kind of football. In a way, they kind of play the kind of football you need to play in the playoffs in terms of particularly being able to run the ball, but just making defensive plays when you need to make them and just not making a lot of mistakes. I mean, shout out to DQ. Like, shout out to Dan Quinn. He got these boys playing. He's got these boys playing good, disciplined ball.
And Bobby Wagner too.
Man, what more can we say about Bobby Wagner? I'm gonna start calling. That's timeless. That's the new timeless. That's timeless Bobby Wagner. It don't matter how old that man get. That man gonna continue to make plays. That man been making plays his whole career, and he ain't stopping. He is still a really good middle linebacker. Being at this point in his career, making the plays he's making for the Washington Commanders. Just shout out to, in my opinion, he's a Hall of Fame linebacker. He's gonna make the Hall of Fame, in my opinion. Just shout out, just man, he to be still as good as he is nothing short of just a testament to how hard of a worker he is in his football IQ and being able to go out there and still be able to dictate and play the way Bobby Wagner is still capable of playing. So yeah, shout out to him. But this team, man, I'm telling you, Detroit, Washington gonna be a problem for y'all this weekend. Do not come into this game against the Washington Commanders thinking it's gonna be easy and y'all just gonna run over them. I'm just saying like that. You got to play to take them out, because I think Washington right now is playing a kind of football that they're not going to take themselves out. You got to take them out. Detroit got to come in ready to put the foot on their throat. Washington ain't going to give them an inch. Detroit got to take everything they get, and that's all I got to say.
All right, fellas, let's do our picks. We got 2 games for Saturday. NFL picks: Texans at Chiefs. Kansas City 8.5-point favorite. Is it fair to say the board unanimous?
I think Houston covers the 8.5. But I said this on Brandon's podcast. Until you show me you can be a king slayer, I'm picking the king. So give me Kansas City.
Champ?
I got to take the final boss of the NFL, Patrick Mahomes, on this one. So, yeah.
The board is unanimous. I got Kansas City. Commanders at Lions. Detroit is a 9.5-point favorite.
You want to go? You can go first, Champ.
I'm taking the underdog.
You taking Washington?
Yes.
Wow.
I'm taking Washington. You know what? I'm going to just be real. Look, when momentum is on your side, hey, I just, like I said, when momentum is on your side, man, you got to go with the team that has momentum. So Washington, and if they go in and upset them, hey, I think they got a hell of a good chance to upset the Lions, man. They got a good chance. I'm not going to sell them short. They have a hell of a chance to upset the Detroit Lions.
BRF.
I really want to pick Washington here because like I said, they play the kind of they play the kind of football in the playoffs you need to travel when it comes to playing on the road. As far as the surprising defense that they're playing, being able to rush the passer, being able to run the ball, and then Jaden Daniels being in that run attack too, being able to control the tempo. I just feel like Detroit's going to be able to do what Tampa Bay couldn't do. I feel like Tampa didn't run the ball enough to really control the pace. Jahmyr Gibbs is as happy as I am to see Washington playing well and being in this position of being in the Final Four of the NFC. That run defense is still a question, and you about to get a full dose of Jahmyr Gibbs, who's been, in my opinion, better since David Montgomery got hurt, and that's a frightening proposition to think about. I think Detroit's play calling is just God tier, next level. I think they're just going to do what Tampa couldn't do. I think Detroit's going to be able to take advantage of this. I think Ben Johnson, say what you want, I think homeboy's coaching for a head coaching job, and I think this playoff run could be his kind of coming out party for teams looking at looking at a head coach. I think he's gonna pull out all the stops here. I think this playoff run could be his coming up party. I think he's gonna pull all the stops out. I'm gonna take Detroit. I just think their play calling is just it's disrespectful is what their play calling is. Some of their play calling is disrespectful. And I mean that in a good way. They have a disrespectfully good offense. So I'm a go Detroit here. Would it shock me if Washington won? No, it wouldn't shock me. I just think Detroit is just too much when it comes to the offensive play calling.
To say disrespectful BRF with the Detroit Lions play calling would be an understatement. Heck, we even saw Penei Sewell, their offensive lineman, the other time against the Dallas Cowboys running routes. Not often you see a 300-pound dude running routes, man. So that tells you something. I'm going to go with Detroit with this one. I think it'll be 30-22. However, if Jaden Daniels has an opportunity in crunch time, ABC, Alec Baldwin, always be closing.
All right, Stephen A. All right, yeah. Stephen A. I like that.
He knows how to close. He closed last week. He closed against the Falcons. He closed against the Eagles. He closed against the Bears. He closed against the Giants. Would it surprise me that the Commanders would win this one? No, it would not. But I have Detroit winning this one because I think Detroit is still looking to get revenge and getting to the road to the NFC Championship game in Motor City. But for the X factor for Washington on the defensive side, Armstrong. Dorrance Armstrong. If he can just if they can just make Jared Goff, keep him out the pocket, and if our line with Armstrong and Payne and some of the other guys on our team, Latu, if we put pressure on Jared Goff and force Jared Goff to go outside the pocket, that's going to help us. The concern is our running defense. This season, we're 30th in the NFL in rushing defense.
Y'all never got Jonathan Allen back?
I don't know if we have Jonathan Allen back, no. But the thing is, if we had Jonathan Allen back, that would be a game changer. Yeah. But I think for me, if we're Dan Quinn, cut down the penalties, and I think we're going to be aggressive. And I wouldn't be surprised if Detroit actually lost this one, even though I still have them winning, because Dan Campbell, you got to show your clock management, your decision making. That's going to be one. It's interesting to see because with Dan Quinn, of course, guys, sorry to bring it up, the 28-3 Super Bowl, all the other stuff in Atlanta, it's going to be it's like the hot potato. Who's going to mess up with the clock management and the play calling, Dan Quinn or Dan Campbell. The two Dans, D&D. So this is going to be interesting to see. I have Detroit win this one 30-22, but I do think that the Commanders could actually, I wouldn't be surprised if they won this one. Just because no one expected this team to go this far with the rookie quarterback. And Dan Quinn definitely deserves conversation for Coach of the Year. All right, fellas, let's talk about Sunday. Rams at Eagles. Philly's a 6.5-point favorite.
All of these games kind of fall into the category. Even the Texans Chiefs game, all these teams, all of these are like, we wouldn't be surprised if the road team won. And for me, this is another game. Like, the Rams can legit beat the Eagles. They can legit beat the Eagles because that defensive line is getting after it. That defense has been just miles better compared to what they were first half of the season. That defense has just been miles better. And I trust Sean McVay over Nick Sirianni in terms of the play calling and in big game situations, clock management, and all that other stuff. So believe you me when I say I want to pick the Rams. I just think the Eagles are just too talented. I think the Eagles are just too talented on both sides of the ball, and I feel like when it comes down to it, I think the Eagles just have more playmakers to get out there and get the job done. I'm going to go 28-20 Philadelphia winning this game.
Champ?
Philadelphia.
I got Philly. And last one, Baltimore at Buffalo. That's going to be the game, the rematch of, remember, guys, Sunday Night Football. I think it was like I don't remember what week it was. But unfortunately for the Ravens, no Zay Flowers. And it's going to be at Buffalo, in which Baltimore, believe it or not, is a 1.5-point favorite. And I think the only reason why they picked Baltimore is because of the difference maker of Derrick Henry. Because remember, Buffalo, even though it was at Baltimore, Buffalo, there was no way they couldn't stop Derrick Henry. And even if Lamar is having an off game, don't forget big Derrick Henry. Losing Zay Flowers will hurt. Hopefully, Rashad Bateman is going to have a big game. But I have Buffalo winning this one. I think Josh Allen is going to continue this level of play. I think that James Cook, to your point, Champ, as long as he gets them rolling. And I think with the Ravens defense, they're not known for the best secondary in the world. But sometimes you're going to have to take some chances. And I think Josh Allen, this is going to be the game where he's going to be taking more chances. Now, sometimes with Josh Allen, that's going to lead to mistakes. But I do think in this one, he's going to pull it off. So I got Buffalo 35, Baltimore 30.
This is a game. This is a game that both quarterbacks need to win. Neither one of them can afford to lose. Especially Lamar Jackson. I'm taking Lamar and the Baltimore Ravens. I think they have the offensive onslaught even without Zay Flowers in order to bring it in. But yeah, you gotta ask yourself this question though, man. I mean, this game is supposed to be the game of all games, but is it really, or or they just set each other up to just get beat down on until they get to the final boss? So you gotta ask yourself that question. But for now, I'm just gonna be honest with you. I think that Baltimore,
On conspiracy theories and stuff.
No, this is not a conspiracy theory. I mean, look, it's not a conspiracy theory when it's true. Who has beaten who has beaten the final boss? Patrick Mahomes.
The
Other
only
the
quarterbacks that have beat Patrick Mahomes are Tom Brady,
the GOAT.
and Joe Burrow.
Okay, so until somebody else beats the final boss, it's like, okay, you beat each other down. Can you beat the final boss? So I don't think a lot has been made about that, but I'll digress until next week.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm gonna go with Lamar Jackson. You got to win this one, Lamar. You cannot, you can't go around here tiptoeing.
BRF.
Mm, I got 31-28. I'm gonna go Baltimore too. I feel like this is gonna be a Derrick Henry party here. He's got to touch the ball. He's got to make his impact. I'll say this though. Shout out to Rashad Bateman. He has been playing better as of late. I think the Ravens defense has been like the number one defense in the league since about week 11 or 12. So they've definitely stepped their game up as well. Um, I think Buffalo's run defense is there to be had, and I think Derrick Henry is going to really kind of set the pace for what they want this game to be. I do think it's going to be a high scoring game because I still think Baltimore secondary can still get got, and I think Josh Allen can get his and put up good numbers against that secondary. I just feel like Derrick Henry is going to be the ultimate X factor and deciding factor in this game. I got 31-28 Baltimore.
All right, fellas, let's get into some entertainment. LiAngelo Ball, Jello, the middle son of Lavar Ball, has a new track out called Tweaker. Debuted at number 29 on the Billboard Hot 100. By the way, signed a big deal with Def Jam Records, $13 million. Shout outs to Jello. Y'all, I heard the track. It was actually kind of cool though, because I remember, Champ, you showed me a video of the Commanders Buccaneers game, post game. They were playing the song. I think Jaden Daniels was in that video as well, man. But big shout outs to Jello. Really happy for him. Unfortunately, his basketball career didn't turn out the way he hoped or imagined, but hey, finding different alternatives in life. And so far he's having some success with the rap game. Um it just shows you that, you know what, if the previous goal, if the previous dream you had didn't work out, there's nothing wrong with backups. There's nothing wrong with having a backup plan. There's nothing wrong trying something new, trying something different. I'm happy that the Ball family's setting up for each other. I was listening to different podcasts, Paul George's podcast, and it's trending. And they're playing it in the locker rooms. They were and it's going all over social media. So I'm happy for the Ball family. I'm happy for Jello. So Champ, what are your thoughts?
Number one, man, look, give that great father that they have his flowers.
Yes.
Because he told those young men that they were going to be something, every last one of them. And lo and behold, they all ended up being something. Now, you could talk about certain antics, whether he cost them a sneaker deal or what have you. But he raised those boys to be, those young men, excuse me, they're not boys. He raised those young men to be successful. He told the world that they were going to be successful. And guess what? He did just that. So people can talk about, LaVar Ball, about how loud he is, but the fact of the matter is, and read between the lines, they say the same thing about Coach Prime. So, hey, read between the lines on that one. I don't even have to say nothing else. So big ups to LaVar Ball and great fathers, especially it's like the man sitting below me, BRF, who was out there doing everything for their kids, and the strong fathers who was out there doing their thing. So look, just like Peyton Manning, just like Peyton Manning's father deserves a lot of credit for raising those kids and putting them in the NFL. Let's give LaVar Ball that same energy, regardless of his antics. So guess what? He got his kids to be successful. One is an all-star. The other became a good defensive player. The other one didn't quite pan out, but he's still doing his thing in the rap game. So everything that he told us was going to happen, it happened. So, but we'll leave that where it is. As far as Tweaking is concerned, man. BRF, man. Well, both of y'all are old enough to remember this. Tell me that doesn't sound like some vintage Cash Money, the Big Timers type of vibes. Tell me it don't give 2005 vibes.
That's what
Early
I was about to.
2000s.
That's what I was about to say. It does. It does kind of give. It does kind of give those vibes.
Yes, it gives that 2005 Manny Fresh, the Big Timers vibe, where it's just like it's catchy. I mean, I like it, man. I like it, man. And like Sports PSP said, man, when plan A doesn't work, it's always good to have a plan B. And I like the way all of those young men are so supportive of each other, them being brothers. And look, it's gonna be interesting to see what he can put on wax for an album. Big ups to Def Jam for giving him a record deal. Def Jam still a big powerhouse, just like it was back in the 90s, early 2000s, even back in the 80s. Big ups to Def Jam for giving him a big, huge deal. And I can't wait to see what the whole we got a chance to see a little bit of snippet of what you can do. I can't wait to hear the entire album and see what else that he can do, man, because I think it's gonna be good, man. Big ups to, but like I said earlier, man, big ups to Lavar Ball, man. Regardless of how strong he comes off as, he did exact those his children, those young men did exactly what he said they was gonna do. And although Jello did not become the great NFL, the great NBA player that he envisioned, he still was a success. And yes, I like the song, man. I listened to it myself, me being the old guy. Like I said, it gives me 2005 big timer vibes. And I think the greatest thing about it is when they mixed it with Number One Stunner. That was when they mixed it up with that. I was like, oh man, that was great, man. So man, big ups to the Ball family, man, doing their thing, man, because I love it, man. To see a family like that who faced a lot of criticism earlier on when Lonzo was at UCLA and everything of that nature, and they was criticizing him when he was coming out because of his father, for those young men to do their thing and doing it like they're doing now, hey, they deserve nothing but their flowers and nothing but the credit. But it all started with the father, man. And big ups to the fathers that's doing their thing, man. Give them credit just like we do our mothers, bro.
Absolutely. And LeVar Ball, in some kind of ways, he reminds me of he's like the black Jim Cornette. Colorful.
He is colorful, man. You saw that when he was on the WWE. He's a hell of a promoter. He's a hell
Oh
of a
yeah,
promoter.
he got charisma. He got he got personality. He got attitude. But that's the type of thing that people love about LeVar Ball. He's provocative, and he is not afraid to say whatever is on his mind. And look, man, say what you want about LeVar Ball, but he's a big dreamer, and it has worked out so well for his three sons, and for the Ball family. So shout outs to LeVar Ball, man. BRF, man. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, champ. Yeah, the first. Yeah, like I didn't think about it at first, but then someone else kind of seen some posts about it, like how Tweaker kind of gives those early 2000s, mid 2000s kind of vibe with the flow and the catchiness of the hook and all that. And it's like, man, I could see like early 2000s Cash Money in this. Like it's a catchy song. It's a catchy song. The beat, I definitely do like the beat of the song. The beat is nice. I can't even hate on that. The beat's nice. But yeah, definitely shout out to all three Ball brothers, man. Because I mean, you gotta look at it like this. Alonzo, before he got injured, got his big contract with he got himself a big contract, a big second contract. I mean, LaMelo Ball is like one of the top 10 point guards in an NBA right now as we speak. So I mean, what more do we need to say about LaMelo Ball? He's a beast. It's kind of funny. It's kind of funny. He's the youngest, and right now he's probably the best player of the three. It's kind of funny, but I mean, it is facts. And then LiAngelo, even like we talked about it, like the NBA career didn't work out as much as he did. But to get a $13 million deal from Def Jam, I mean, one of the preeminent record companies in the game, to get a deal like that from Def Jam, that just to get a deal like that from Def Jam, say what they think you could do as far as like, producing that kind of music, being that type of promoter, and kind of getting that type of PR for their record company. It says a lot about LiAngelo Ball, man. It says a lot about him. So I honestly, ultimately, when I think about it though, man, my one turn off with them was always Lavar. It really was, because he was loud. He's obnoxious. He's boisterous. But honestly, the one thing you can't knock, he believed in his boys. He believed in his boys. You say what you wanted to about LaVar Ball. One thing he always did was believe in his sons. And me being a father, I can respect that, because he put the positive energy out there for his sons before anybody else really did. And it came to fruition, because like I said, Lonzo Ball before his injury was really starting to turn into a force at the point guard position before he got hurt. But honestly though, now I'm glad to see him get back from that injury and playing again, and helping the Bulls as much as he can. Like I said, I don't need to talk about LaMelo anymore. We know what he's doing with the Charlotte Hornets, and Jello getting that record deal, doing something for himself, even though the basketball ain't working. I mean, just shout out to LaVar. I mean, you can't knock the hustle. You know what I'm saying? Great, in the great words of Jay-Z, you can't knock the hustle. So shout out to LaVar for putting his sons out there and telling the world, basically, saying it wasn't, in the word, and in the words of another great promoter, mic worker, Paul Heyman, it wasn't a prediction, it was a spoiler. And look where we at. Look where we at. I mean, all three of them are successful, and it's you can't be mad. Dare I say it, that's another example of black excellence showing itself again.
Hey, speaking of Black excellence, a few more weeks, Black History Month, in a few days, MLK Day. So, people, for those who want to question or critique LeVar Ball, how do you feel about him now? How do you feel about LeVar Ball now? I mean, dude, say what you want about him. Yeah, he's controversial. Yeah, he's provocative. But boy, he does know how to get us talking. He knows how to make some money. And you can't knock him, man. You just can't knock him. Don't hate the player, hate the game. So that's all I got to say. But BRF, I'm gonna let you go first, because we got last two subjects and we're gonna try to hurry up as much as we can. Favorite Dudley Boyz moment?
One of my Mount Rushmore's attack. One of my Mount Rushmore tag teams in professional wrestling. They are on my Mount Rushmore. I've been a fan of. I didn't watch them in ECW much, so I really didn't kind of get the full Dudley Boy experience until they got to the World Wrestling Federation at the time. But from the time they hit the World Wrestling Federation to now, they are, honest to God, on my Mount Rushmore tag teams. Especially when you go back and you watch their ECW work, they were savages in ECW, especially Bubble. Like, my God, didn't realize he was that much of a savage in ECW. And if y'all don't believe me, Google or YouTube ECW Heatwave promo. Come back and see me after you watch that promo. That's all I'm going to say about that. My favorite Dudley Boyz moment is really in correlation with a couple of other tag teams that we definitely like. The first two, well, actually, take that back. Three. The first three matches they had with each other: the Triangle Ladder match at WrestleMania, TLC match at SummerSlam 2000, and then TLC 2 at WrestleMania 17. You cannot sit here. There, you will not find too many trilogies on the level of those three matches back to back to back. And I didn't even mention TLC 3, which they put on TV, which was still a banger. So, yeah, just for me, the reason I say those matches was honestly, I just look at the Dudley Boyz not being a traditional tag team. They were about like they were legit like about hurting people and violence and just taking things to another level. And I feel like those matches with Edge and Christian and the Hardys are really like just the personification of just the revolution of tag team wrestling and how those three teams pretty much put tag team wrestling on the map as far as the World Wrestling Federation, WWE, was concerned then at the time. Where would tag team wrestling have been in that time frame without those three tag teams basically putting it in the main? They put tag team wrestling in the main event scene. Those three teams those three teams could main event any pay-per-view. They put tag team wrestling on the main event stage. I just single out those three matches because those three matches for me were like just the culmination of one of the greater stories ever told in tag team wrestling, with basically the holy trinity of the late 90s, early 2000s in those three tag teams. I mean, and you just knew when you got two of them together or all three of them got together, you knew you weren't going to get a bad match. I mean, you could go to the Edge and Christian Hardy Boys ladder match at No Mercy 99. You could go back to the Dudley Boyz, Hardy Boys tables match of Royal Rumble 2000, the Edge and Christian Hardys Unforgiven 2000 steel cage match. I mean, these three teams just knew how to get the best out of each other regardless of what the match was. So I say those three ladder matches with all three of those teams together because it was just such a revolutionary thing to see at the time as far as tag team wrestling was concerned. And they knew how to bring the best out of each other. And they contributed their own kind of little form of violence in the way to that rivalry. And they were able to wrestle great matches. They were able to tell great stories. The psychology was on point. I mean, those are three matches I had. I would, if you gave me a time capsule and you let me just pick like any 20 matches I want to keep in the time capsule for the rest of my days, I'm putting all three of those matches in there because they were all that good. So my favorite Dudley Boyz moments of all times were the Triangle Ladder match and then TLC 1 and TLC 2. Just because of the stories they told and just how much fun those matches were to watch.
Champ?
Oh man, look. Oh, hell of a segment of BRF number one, man. Because that was the epitome of what tag team wrestling was all about, man. So I couldn't agree with you more. Me, you know me, I'm immature, so I'm just gonna be real. Remember when he went on the run when he was power bombing everybody through the tables? And every time he would powerbomb somebody, every time Bubba would powerbomb, he ended up back in a trance. And then the icing on the cake for every single time he put, whether it be Tori or Trish Stratus or Mae Young, the icing on the cake, the person who put the icing on the cake was good old JR.
Commentary.
because when he said that son of a gun is back in that trance, and the only way that JR can say it, that son of a gun is back in that trance. You know what I'm saying?
Oh my God, we forget one person for the Dudley Boyz. Spike.
Right.
Why?
Spike would take beatings. I mean, they would beat the
Did you
suckers
see
out of him.
all them times he got thrown to them tables?
Yeah, that was, and he
Spike
was on.
Spike got the beats. My God, Spike got the beats.
Yeah, that was that was cool, man. You know, the whole especially when he powerbombed Mae Young off the stage, and then like I said, don't look at me like that. I'm not the one who wrote the show, but
Mae Young will
when he
forever
power,
get my praise taking a table bump like that, bro.
yeah. So when she went off the table, not to mention Tori and the vignette, and I think the thing is that made you want to, because remember Trish Stratus back then was part of Testing Albert. So I think the whole thing that made you want to see her go through the table even more when she was doing the promo with the table. That was crazy right there. So when after she did the promo, I was like, you wonder how long is it gonna take? How long is it gonna take? And then that segment finally happened. And then JR had to top it off. And he's back in that trance. Because you know, every time Bubba would put him to a table, he would just stare at the camera. That's what made it so funny, man. And then JR with the commentary, that just put the icing on the cake, man. So that reign of terror, that was that it was in 2000, by the way, of all times. It was in 2000. So, you know, that war with DX and you know, the wars with Test and Albert, you know, not to mention, you know, trying to powerbomb Mae Young to the table. That was a funny thing. It was very, very comical. And man, I enjoyed it, man. That was a lot of stuff back then wouldn't fly right now. I'll say that.
Go ahead.
Oh boy, real quick, I gotta mention this because Bubba Ray, he told a story, like a story behind the whole Mae Young thing, and the jumping off of the and the jumping off the stage, putting it through the table. Because basically what it was, but he told a story. He was like, she was like, telling him, "No, if you're gonna do it, do it. Go all out. Don't half-ass it. Do it." And it's funny because Bubba said, I did the spot, a power bomber through the table, and then we hit the floor. She farted on me. He told a story. I swear to God, I ain't never laughed so hard in my life. He said that. I'm like, oh God, no, not that, bro.
May God have mercy.
Lord have mercy.
Hey, shout out shout out to Bubba, shout out to Bully Ray. He told. I don't know how he could tell that story with a straight face, bro. I don't. I really don't. Oh boy. Oh
For
God.
me, I go the Great American Bash '04 when they fought the Undertaker. That was a heck of a match between them. But of course, man, y'all stole the thunder when I'm sorry, I can't get the thought of BRF what he said. That oh, and
Oh my God.
next week for the Sports PSP pod for wrestling, favorite Brian Pillman moment.
Oh.
Stay tuned for next week for the Sports PSP pod. And last one, Champ, I'm gonna let you go first. Favorite Lil Wayne track.
Oh man. Lil Wayne, one of the greatest artists from down south, arguably of all time. You know what I just said? He used to go to the South. He used to go to the South. Be honest with you, man. That was a run like I I can't describe it, man. Drop 1, 2, and 3. Oh man. Hard to pick just one Lil Wayne song, but let me see. Hustler music.
Mm.
Hustler music, man. And when people think about hustler music, they think about certain things. But you know, when you listen to that, that makes you really want to go work out. That makes you want to do your homework. That makes you want to practice that extra that extra script in order to make your podcast better. Whatever your hustle is that makes you want to do that. And I think that, I mean, especially with the beat that they was able to do on that record, I mean, that really motivates you to want to do some things. And like I said, don't confuse hustle with all of the wrong things. A lot of the hustle means go hard. And like I said, it makes you want to do things like what PSP is doing every single week, editing, doing his podcast, being on TikTok, being on all these social media platforms. It makes you want to get up and run. It makes you want to get up and do a lot of things. It makes you want to do your homework, study your craft, so you can be on a level like that. So hustle music, number one. And number two, uh get off the corner.
Mm-hmm.
Get off the corner.
Mm.
So I never, in one verse in that song, on doing the corners, he come in, peep some head. If you run these streets, you don't want beef, to get off the corner. So I hope that's and to me, that was just a clear-cut sign of not just you doing the wrong things, but when you are doing the wrong things, kind of stop yourself from doing it, because guess what? There are consequences with that. It's a hidden message in a lot of rap songs. We just only want to hear the good parts of it. We just only want to bop our heads to it. But when that part came on, it really rung a bell to me. When he said, "Come here, peeps, I'm here that you run these streets. You don't want beef, then get off the corner." So I mean, that's a clear-cut sign. If you know you don't belong somewhere, you need to get away from there real quick. So it has to be hustling music and get off the corner.
BRF.
It's hard. This is hard. Lil Wayne's one of my top 5 of all time. This is hard. Jesus. Cause with Lil Wayne, it ain't just albums, it's his mixtapes and the songs he put off the mixtape. I mean, you got and I just love his mixtapes, just being able to take beats from other rappers and kill them just as good, if not better, than the original rapper. I mean, he took.
Ooh.
I mean,
Remember Mike Jones?
He took
Remember
the.
Mike Jones?
Yeah, I'm about to say he took the Mr. Jones beat.
Jones.
He took the Mr. Jones beat and made Sky the Limit. My God, that is one of the greatest mixtape songs of all time. He took Jibs, he took the King Kong beat and made it his own and killed it. Just my favorite mixtape song is a song I can't repeat the full title, so I'm gonna just say 3 initials, PMW. If you know, you know. That's a banger. For me, okay, but for me though, man, it's just so many. Golly, Fireman, Go DJ, Millie, dang, Mr. Carter with Jay-Z,
Mrs. Officer.
Mrs. Officer, Comfortable with Babyface, Shooter with Robin Thicke, Mirror with Bruno Mars. I mean, the dude got hits on top of hits. Good Lord. Even with the Carter 5, when he's Don't Cry with XXX Tentacion, rest in peace. I'm gonna go favorite Lil Wayne track. Best rapper alive.
Yes.
I love best rapper alive. Off the Carter 2. That beat just man, yeah. I gotta go best rapper alive, man. But just I could keep going naming Lil Wayne tracks. Like I said, he's in my top 5 rappers of all time. I could go on and on and on about his tracks. But if I'm a single, for me, I would go either best rapper alive or we be steady mobbing.
A milli. That's my favorite track. The Carter 3 album. Shout out to my stepfather, Joe. He bought me the Carter 3 album. This was at the time when I graduated middle school. That album sold a milli in the first week. And oh man, I love that album. And then DJ, I love that one. Remember Wayne incorporated the bling bling. Remember when he used coined the term bling bling, champ?
No, that was BG.
Oh yeah, BG. I'm sorry. But Wayne, man, a milli, I got to give him credit for that one. Right above it, featuring Drake. I love that one.
Mm-hmm.
I can't say the other one. It's regarding it starts with G. It's a disease. You know which song I'm referring to. I can't
Yes,
say this.
yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I can't say the word, but I think y'all know exactly what I'm referring to. I do love that one. But oh man, Wheezy though. I mean, his tracks, man. A milli. That was my favorite track when I was listening to. Cause I mean, other than the lollipop song, a milli. I
Yeah.
played that through the summer of '08. Man. That was a hell of a summer for me. Graduated middle school. I was back in Miami, like hanging out with my grandma's house. I played that track. I love a milli, man. So, and oh my god, man, him and T Pain, the two of them together.
If
Remember, Keep
you got
Believing?
money, if you got money, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
take it out your pocket, then show it, then throw it like
Ah,
yes, I love it.
ah. Oh,
Yes.
man.
But
Hey, him and 50 Cent had some of the best mixtape runs you ever want to have.
yes, but Mr. When he did "Sky's the Limit" and when he took Mike Jones, Mr. Jones song, that was it for me though. That was
He pretty
big,
much
man.
cemented legendary status. I mean, I think yeah, like Jeff said, him and 50 are like the goats of like the mixtape game. Like just I don't think nobody can touch them in mixtapes.
All right. All right, fellas. That concludes the rest of the Sports PSP pod. Any final words, fellas?
Ah,
Let you take a first step.
always a privilege, a pleasure, and an honor to be here. Um, look, I know it's been a long week for a lot of content creators, but look, there's still a lot of hope. There's still a lot of hope, and we'll leave it at that. Always good to be on the highlight of Friday nights. I will give the salute, the patented salute, in order to say that. Always a privilege, a pleasure, and an honor to be on the stage with both of you guys, both of you talented young men. And I look forward to this every single week, man. Like I said, we call it the highlight of Friday nights for a reason, man. You know, hey, and for all of you listening in TV land right about now, make sure you like and subscribe because the New Jersey Genius, he's on his way, man. I have been, hey man, hey man, I'm a guest, but I'm a fan. I'm just gonna be real, man. I'm a guest, but I'm a fan. So I gotta give you your flowers, man. Big ups to what you're doing. The shows you did last week, the shorts that you was doing last week. Hey, I watched them the minute I got home while I was trying to work out, I will say. And you know, hey man, you're doing your thing, and I'm damn proud of you, man. Shout out to everyone.
Thank you.
Drive safe this weekend. Big ups to PSP. And look, man, look, be safe this weekend. Remember whose weekend it is, and let's try to pay homage with that great man by exhibiting good behavior and good decisions. So happy birthday, Dr. King. We appreciate you.
Yes. ERF.
Man, it's when we get to this part of the show, it's always hard following Champ because he helps us. He the way he speaks, he knows how he helps people understand as far as like putting stuff in perspective. So always got to give Champ a shout out because he gets it as a brother. He gets it, and he knows life and what's important in life and how we got to put things in perspective and be appreciative about things. It's always a pleasure to share the stage with him, with you, my brother Champ. It's always a pleasure to share the stage with you, Pre SP. It's always been a blast, and I will add on to this, like, to everybody who might be kind of worried about the whole TikTok ban and all that. I get it. I completely understand. But at the same time, there's still opportunities to be had. There's still opportunities to get out there and put yourself out there on the platform of social media, whether it's sports creation, music creation, movies, comics, whatever you like to talk about. There's always ample opportunities to get out there and let your voice be heard, doing what you love to do. Don't let a potential TikTok man stop you from wanting to be great. Just don't let it stop you from wanting to be great. Greatness can true and exhibiting true greatness is never to be stopped no matter what it is you're doing. That's exhibiting true greatness. And we all have that. And always remember that and remember what I'm saying. Don't let something like this keep you from doing what you want to do and being great because we all have it in us. So definitely shout out to PSP, shout out to Champ. Um, Definitely sending thoughts and prayers to everybody affected in California by the wildfires. Definitely shout out to y'all. And just I'm just it's good knowing there's good people out there that you share platforms with, that you can do what you do best, have fun doing it, but also building bonds and building relationships that you want to last for a lifetime. And just stuff like this, we can't take stuff like this for granted. So, as I always say, a topic not thought about is a topic not talked about. Because us three brothers, we're gonna continue to do this, and we're gonna continue to rep this from the Garden State to the Empire State of the South. We're gonna continue to do it regardless of a TikTok ban. We in it to win it. Shout out to y'all for supporting us, and dare I say, we gonna keep this running.
Absolutely. And listen, TikTok, even though it may be may be banned, but hey, gone but not forgotten because it's led me to a way with great people such as Champ, BRF, Brandon from the Block, Trent, Broad, Maria, Casual, Hot Take, Kenny, Harrison. The list goes on and on. So it's definitely opened the door for me as far as with podcast opportunities and meeting great people along the way. And don't worry, folks. Sports PSP Pod, whether TikTok, you can still follow me on IG and YouTube. Sports PSP Podcast, over 62,000. So we're gonna keep that up. By the way, the Triple H video, the Stone Cold one. What if Triple H had won King of the Ring in 1996? Already 10K, already over 10K. So big ups on that. Big ups to the people who are supporting and liking to the Sports PSP podcast. We'll definitely do a show next week. Y'all enjoy the rest of y'all weekend. Stay safe and peace.